Hello viewers, this is Wolf here. Welcome to Wolf's Haven and to another model review. Today we're going to be taking a look at this absolutely massive 1/10 scale Zinogre diorama designed by Kinetiquettes. This is something that I've been looking forward to for a really long time, Zinogre being my favorite monster in the series. When I saw that there was a huge model 1/10 scale of this, I just had to grab it. And Kinetiquettes, they're not a brand that I'm very familiar with, but after looking through their catalog, it seems like a lot of the stuff that they make is very high quality and also super expensive. This whole bundle here, it actually goes for about $1,200 USD. And I'm from Canada, so that translates closer to around $1,500 to $1,600. It's a pretty expensive diorama to have, for sure. I didn't pay all of that in full. I did kind of pay it off over the course of a year and a half, so it wasn't that bad, but still, this is a very expensive collector's item here, and honestly, I'm really excited to jump into this and see what it's all about. So, this is actually the Electrifying bundle from Kinetiquettes of Zinogre here. So, the bundle actually comes with the Zinogre model that you see right here. And as you can see, this box is absolutely massive. Like, I couldn't even fit it on my table. I had to move everything around just to kind of get everything here. I can't even get it in camera, or in focus, really. But yeah, it has the Zinogre here. The other thing it comes with are two hunters. So it comes with a female hunter right there. It comes with a male hunter. And it also comes with a Palico. So all of those models can all kind of clip into the diorama, set alongside Zinogre, and have it displayed in an epic battle. So, without any further ado, I'm going to open all these boxes up, get them all displayed, and then go into detail about what this thing looks like and all of the other things that come included with it. So with everything completely out of the packaging and fully assembled, this is essentially what you get with the Electrifying bundle here. But before we dive into the main course, there are actually two additional little goodies that come included with this whole set. One of which is this little pin right here. So, as you can see, this is very reminiscent of Zinogre's original icon artwork from the older games. And I kind of like how there's a bit of a black background here to allow more of these colors to pop, like these yellows for Zinogre's armor, and as well as these turquoisey colors to signify the electricity flowing around him. This is definitely a cool little addition, and it kind of reminds me of some of the keychains that Capcom have been releasing as of late. So this is pretty cool. Like, they didn't have to do this, but it is a neat little thing that you can kind of post up somewhere. Definitely appreciate this being added into the collection here. The other thing that got included with this, which is actually my favorite of the two, is this freaking awesome piece of art here with Zinogre, the two hunters, and the Palico engaged in an epic duel, electricity flowing all over the place. This art looks fantastic, and full credit, full props to the designer, the artist who made this. This looks incredible, and this is definitely one of my favorite things with this whole pack here. Definitely want to put this up on my wall, frame it once I get the chance. But yeah, this looks fantastic, and a really cool addition to this whole set here. So taking a look at the models now, I'm going to save the best for last, which is of course Zinogre, and then combine everything together a little bit later. Reason being is because I did mention that this is a bundle, so it is possible for you to buy each individual piece separately. So for instance, if you just wanted the Palico, or the female hunter, or the male hunter, or if you just wanted Zinogre by himself, you could definitely do that. But because I got the whole package here, I do think it's important to analyze each individual piece as its own separate entity before analyzing the diorama as a whole. So first things first, we'll start with the Palico here. And the one thing that I gotta say for all of these models here is that the level of paint detail and just the sculpt for all of these models is just fantastic. So the Palico looks really good. I'm liking a lot of these shiny silvers that we have for the chest armor here. A lot of these paints are just very clean, with these clean red straps around the armor, as well as the blue armor for the scales around the waist, and of course we have these little fur pieces attached to the waist as well. The Palico has a nice little fur texture around the legs here, as well as a cool little fur pattern here with the black stripes around the legs. If we look up to the face, there's going to be more of that little fur texture here around the face. The Palico looking very expressive, like it just got hit by a massive attack here. We of course have more of these shiny silvers on the faceplate of the helmet here. And then, of course, we have this nice little bone design for the helmet on the sides here, looking very good. I kind of like the paints here as well. The hair at the end of the helmet here looks very good. We have a little bit of a color gradient from a dark gray going over to a bright white there at the end, which is very nice. So, because you could actually buy in all of these models separately, they all come with their own base. So you can kind of see that the Palico is on its own base here. It kind of sits on this on one leg. It sits in on a tiny little peg that slides in through here. And you could just display this by itself if you really wanted to, or you could actually involve it with Zinogre, which I'll show a little bit later. But a lot of these, one of the features of these models here is that a lot of the connecting parts are actually magnetic. So you can actually see that with the Palico weapon, you can disassemble it like that. It sits right on a magnetic little spot right there, so it's an easy off, easy on type of deal there. It just sits on there and then it's good. If we take a look at the weapon of course is going to look just as good as the model, carrying through a lot of that paint detail on the fur here, as well as those nice colors with the kind of turquoisey blues on right here, as well as the bone texture on the blade of the weapon. So the Palico is definitely looking really good. There's also a little bit of detail on the paw pad for the Palico as well here. So taking a look at the female hunter here. So this hunter is actually the only one in this set that has its face completely exposed, which I think that's kind of cool because it does kind of contrast the male hunter a little bit, and I also feel that they did a pretty good job with modeling the face. The sculpt is very nicely done, and the paints look really good here, just like the rest of the models here as well. Of course, the armor is going to look just as good as everything else here. We have these nice shiny silvers on the chest as well. Again, the paints are very clean throughout a lot of these red sections for the straps, and the blues for the chest armor and the waist armor as well. Looking down to the legs, of course, we have more of this kind of bone color here on the knee. More of this bright red strap just right down here, right at the back of the knee here. And the colors of the leg armor gets a little bit brighter. A bit more of a greenish here on the face of the leg armor here, and more of that shiny silver. The hair actually looks really cool too. This is actually another detail that I liked about the head sculpt, was that I liked how they kind of made the hair have a bit of a flowing motion to add that extra bit of action to the pose as well. I think that's also a nice detail there. Of course, they detailed the little spikes, these little bone spikes here on the helmet, or the little headband, very nicely as well as the texture that they have on the little red ribbon that they have tying the hair at the back there. This is a very nice looking model. The vambraces with these large, absurdly large spikes look very good as well. So taking a look at the weapon, the switch axe, again, just like everything else, is going to look very good. So of course the colors are nice. We have more of a dirty white color here for the fur, which is kind of cool. It makes sense. This weapon's being used, so it makes sense the fur would get kind of dirty. So I do like how that's actually very different from a lot of the other fur pieces on the body armor and on some of the other models here as well. But of course the other colors, the bluish green colors here for Zinogre's scales look really good as well as this kind of brown bone color for the rest of the switch axe as well. The way that you mount the switch axe is pretty simple as well. The handle essentially just kind of slides through the holes in the hand, and then you kind of just cap it off with this little brace here right at the top, and then that's basically it. The head, the only issue that I have with this model is that the head is pretty loose, because you can see like right here the head comes out very, very easily. It's not, honestly, it's not like a big negative or anything, because, you know, this is a diorama. You're not going to be moving this thing around, so as long as you just get the head in to the spot that you want it, like, so you get it in properly. I'm actually having a little bit of problems there. There we go. As long as you get the head in, it's just going to stay there. It's just that if you do bump into it, the head could fall out, but it's not really that big of an issue. All in all, this is a very good looking model. You can see that the skin texture, the painting on the belly, as well as the legs here, like the thighs, all of this stuff looks very good, right? So that's going to do it for the female hunter here. So now let's take a look at the male hunter. So I like this model, however, it is kind of weird for a very specific reason. So I mentioned before that the way that this was marketed was that you can buy each individual piece separately if you really wanted to, and because of that, each model has their own piece of the diorama, or their own base, if you will, to allow them to kind of stand and be propped up by themselves, to stand with no issue. So with the female hunter and the Palico, they all have their own piece of the rock that allows them to just get propped up and just remain in their pose by themselves, right? And they can stand there with no issue. However, that is not the case with the male hunter. So if I move this over here, you can see that the male hunter is actually very heavy on his left side. It's basically impossible to have him standing up by himself, right? It's almost like you have to have a counterbalance on the right side of him, or you have to have him propped up against a wall in order for him to sit like this, right? It's just kind of a weird thing to even like have this as an option. And I think that might be one of the only faults that I've discovered with this this whole package here. It's that, yeah, it's just weird that they designed this to where he's just kind of unstable. It's like they really designed him to be posed with Zinogre, and if you don't do that, you might as well just not even have him, right? So that's the weird thing with this. But just taking a look at the model and its paint, just like the rest of the models that we have here, you can see that this actually looks really good. I think there's a lot more going on with the male armor compared to the female armor that we saw earlier, and there's definitely some things I like about it, especially with the black pants that we have here in the thigh area. There's a nice little texture here which looks very good, and it's contrasted very nicely with the blue armor around the body as well. Again, just like everything else, the paints are very clean. I like the design of these spikes that we have right on the knee armor right here. Very sharp as well. And the other thing that's pretty cool is I did mention before that a lot of these attachment parts are magnetic. So the male hunter actually has two attachment parts. It's actually the shield and the sword. So you can see that this mounts in. Again, this is magnetic. So you just pop it in and it just snaps in just like that, very easy. So it's just gonna sit there and hold its place. The detail on the shield actually looks very nice. It's actually very cool. We have these nice clean red paints in between the the blue scales and the bone on the side here as well, and the little bone that we have going down the center of this, ending into a nice spike right here. Of course, the little ribbon just right inside is very nicely detailed as well here. You can actually see the knot in the ribbon just right there where it kind of connects with the vambrace. And the vambrace is still very detailed on the back there, which is kind of cool. You can kind of see that white spike right at the top there. And of course, there's more of that shiny silver on the gauntlet there as well. So definitely a very nice looking piece. And then of course, the sword is also going to be the same thing. So this is also magnetic. So you can see you can just remove it like that, and it just snaps in very easily just by itself. So very nice. I like magnetic attachment points, especially for models of this size. So just taking a look at this, you can see that the sword here, again, just like everything else, looks very nice. You can see that there's a very cool texture going down the bone of the blade here. The fur pattern on the, I guess, the hilt of the blade is very clean looking. And yeah, overall it just looks nice. There's some nice blues on the gauntlet as well here, with these nice clean browns going over the top of the brace, and these little fur, the little fur that kind of covers over the top of it right there. So of course this whole thing looks very good, and I kind of like the pose that they have here as well, kind of showing off everything here. It shows off the sword, the shield. There's the hair on the helmet looks very good as well too, the little ponytail that we have back here, with again the little bone design on the side of the helmet here. So all of the paints look very clean, and just like the rest of these models, they all kind of sit in their own base on a tiny little peg inside the rock here. You can kind of see there's a little peg right there, and if you want to attach this onto a diorama, there's a specific part on Zinogre's base that you would actually put him on, which I'm going to have to. So that basically covers it for all of these models. So now we're going to take a look at Zinogre. Alright, so now we're finally going to take a look at Zinogre. This is the showpiece of the set here, the granddaddy of all Zinogres, and this model looks absolutely fantastic. There is so much going on with this model, and all of it is just executed so well. From the diorama base, that rocky terrain that we're standing on here, all of the details around Zinogre's body, as well as those electric effect parts, everything here is just so lovingly crafted. It's just, it brings a tear to my eye. This is just such an amazing model. So, as I bring this thing closer and just pan around it, we'll take a close look at the face here, and you can just see that there's such an immense level of detail here around the mouth area. You can see just at the tongue, there's so much detail here inside and around the mouth, especially with the skin around here. You can almost like see all of the different sections of the skin here. Various different colors here to kind of show a little bit of separation between them here. The tongue looking very, very detailed as well. The teeth is also very nice and detailed as well. They're also very sharp, and that's also another thing that you'll notice about this model in particular, is that a lot of these spikes that you see here are actually legitimately sharp. You could actually cut yourself on this. So this actually feels like this was actually made of Zinogre bone parts, which I think is a little cool detail here as well. This model is also very heavy too. There's a decent amount of heft to this. Even the base is actually pretty weighty as well. So definitely, if you're gonna pose this anywhere, you're gonna want to have this on an area that's not too flimsy, because this may actually weigh it down. But just getting on to the rest of this, you can see that there's a lot of coloration here. Even in the ears, there's a bit of this pigment here where we have these pinks here just in the ear, which then goes out to these whites. More of these blues. So we have these like deep blues here as we go out to the black nose, and they kind of fade out to a bit of like an emerald green just at the end there, which is kind of cool. The eye doesn't really have that much detail into it, unfortunately. It's kind of just very glossy. But I suppose you're not really going to notice it all that much, because like everything else kind of takes your attention away from the eye. Everything else looks really good here as well. When we look more to the back of the body, we can see a lot of these spikes right here. More of this blue color just on the back going all the way down. And then of course the fur pattern, the little fur texture that we have going all the way down the back of the body, looks very good, especially coming out to the end of the tail, where we have like the thickest part of the tail with these two spikes at the end here is very nicely modeled as well. The fur kind of ending out into these spikes here at the end here, and this all looks very good. The other detail that I really love about this is how the back of these spikes are actually detailed. Because I think this is actually supposed to be where Zinogre kind of emits its electrical charges from the back of its spikes here, or I think that's where the Fulgur bugs stay. So I think that's actually a pretty cool detail, a little subtle detail at the back of those spikes. That's actually very nice. I do appreciate that for sure. And the terrain is looking very good. So there's a bit of variety here on the terrain. For the most part, it is just kind of a rocky gray. But there is a bit of greenery just right here by the front claw. And then there's a bit of coloration on this claw. I think that's supposed to be more of like color radiation from the electricity, because there is a bit of like a green influence on these two claws here. So I think that's, if that was the case, that is a nice little detail there. And then right back here, we have a little bit of greenery here, just some shrubs, some tiny little plants here. Just around the legs here, you can kind of take these out easily. Take these out and position them any way you want. And yeah, overall this looks very nice. There's a lot of detail on the claws as well. You can just see how dirty they kind of look. There's a bit of different colors here. There's like a bright white, some dark grays, a bit of browns on the claws. And yeah, it just looks very realistic with how impure and how ragged it kind of looks. I think that that's actually really cool. Overall, this looks absolutely fantastic. And the cool thing about these effect parts is they're actually they're a translucent resin, but they're also colored with glow-in-the-dark paint. So that is actually super interesting, because like if we're gonna have these electric effects glowing in the nighttime, that's just going to add a whole other level of amazingness to this whole diorama, and I can't wait to check that out later. But I think with all of that shown, I'm actually going to attach everything together and just see what this looks like all together in this action pose here. So before we attach all of the other hunters to this whole diorama, there are actually two mounting spots for two of the characters. So you can see right here, there's this little rock. This is actually a piece that can be removed, this little tiny rock here. And I believe this is actually where the male hunter is supposed to be posed at. And then right here on Zinogre, there's this little hidden piece. So of course, if you didn't buy the other characters and you just wanted Zinogre by himself, you would actually have this fur piece in. If not, you can remove this. And this is actually attached by a magnet, of course. You can see right in there, there's a magnet. That will actually be the mounting spot for the female hunter. So you can kind of see how a lot of these parts are very well hidden. The other part for the Palico, it actually doesn't peg into anywhere. The Palico is actually supposed to sit into this groove here. So you just kind of put the rock right in here, and then that's where the Palico sits. And we'll display that right now. Alright, here we are. We have everything connected together, and this is just fantastic. This is absolutely scintillating stuff here. The way that all of these models come together and culminate into this epic display of an intense duel with Zinogre is just incredible. Like, I love everything about this. Even just the way that it's structured with the variety of poses from all of these models together is just so expertly crafted here. If I just pan over to the hunter, like the thing that I just really love about how this whole thing is set up is just looking at the male hunter's pose here. I love how he's in a position where he has his shield out as if he's bracing for an incoming attack from Zinogre, likely from that claw over there, as if Zinogre is about to do a powerful lightning strike in his direction. Meanwhile, you have the female hunter over here jumping over Zinogre as if she's about to take advantage of the situation and get in a quick switch axe strike in. And then over here, we have the Palico being a Palico. But yeah, this whole thing just looks incredible, and it's absolutely massive. I know I've said that multiple times in the video, but I just can't stress enough at how large this diorama is. And I'll actually do a quick size comparison here with a few other Monster Hunter models to kind of just give you an idea of what we're looking at here. So, to start things off, we'll actually use my creator's model Velkhana right here. So if we just pan the camera around right over here, so you can actually just see that Velkhana just gets completely dwarfed by the entire size of not just the diorama, but like even just Zinogre himself. Velkhana just looks absolutely tiny, like it just doesn't even compare to the size of this, right? Verticality, this is just way taller than it, and even just lengthwise, if we just bring this over here, over to the side, and I just move the camera just a little bit over this way, you can just see that even lengthwise as well, Velkhana just doesn't stack up to this whole model. Like, it's just absolutely massive. If I compare one of my other figure builder ones, so if I bring my Nergigante over here, my arc-tempered Nergigante, so I think this Nergigante was supposed to be one of the, I think it was supposed to be one of the biggest creators model until Fatalis overshined it. But so now with this comparison, granted, Nergigante of course has a bit of height because this pillar, the crystal pillar, is just really long. But still, when you look at the bigger picture here, Nergigante just doesn't stack up to Zinogre here. It's just completely dwarfed here. And yeah, this is just an incredibly sized diorama here. Of course, it's going to take up a lot of space. It's going to command a lot of space in a display area, because not only is this very tall, but it's also very long as well. And just looking at this here, it's just like Zinogre is already pretty tall by himself, especially with the way that he's posed, with him kind of leaning upward a little bit more. But then you also have the female hunter on top of him, extending that vertical height even more. On top of that, the switch axe going even higher than that. So there's just so much top room that you're going to need for this, as well as horizontal space as well, because like Zinogre is very long. That tail, you might not be able to see it that well from this angle, but that tail stretches out so far from the diorama base here, and it's just going to take up so much horizontal space here. So yeah, this whole display is just absolutely fantastic. So that's basically gonna cover it for this this whole review here. Like, I guess if I were to just go on to my final thoughts, honestly, this is just perfect for me. Like, as a Monster Hunter fan and a huge fan of Zinogre, having something like this is like the crown jewel of the Monster Hunter collection. Like, this is just absolute perfection. I can't think of very many things that that I would really call a fault with this. Like, everything is just well done. The paints look beautiful. The paints are clean. There's no paints where they shouldn't be. There's such an immense level of detail to every aspect of this model, even to some of the minutia as well. Just everything is very well crafted here. The poses are very well thought out. I guess if there's anything that I can say that would be a negative to this whole bundle here is what I brought up earlier about the male hunter, how you kind of have to have him posed with Zinogre. If you try to pose him by himself, it just doesn't really work unless you kind of you have some sort of assistance, like either he's leaning up against something or you have something to kind of counterbalance his rock stand. But outside of that, oh, and I guess like one of the other faults would be, I guess, the female hunter's head is a bit loose, but again, that's not something that I really think is a huge issue anyway. So I think for the most part, this thing is just, it just completely checks all the boxes. It's just perfect. It's a very amazing diorama, very amazing statue here, and I'm very happy to have this. Yeah, like, shout outs to Kinetiquettes for designing and crafting such an amazing piece here. Like, they did some crazy work with this. They also made another Monster Hunter diorama, one with Rathalos and a couple of other hunters wearing Rathalos armor, of course. And that diorama is absolutely insane, because, of course, it has a bunch of flame effect parts similar to how we have these electric parts here. But those actually have LED lights in them, and actually those lights are so bright, it actually looks like flames surrounding Rathalos. It's incredible. But, you know, Kinetiquettes, they do some really, really amazing work, and, you know, this is definitely really extremely well made here from them. But yeah, that's basically gonna do it here for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. And there's definitely going to be more Monster Hunter content coming in the future, more statues, more collectibles, and whatnot. So stay tuned if you want to see more of that stuff. If you enjoy this type of review and unboxing, there's going to be a lot more here. So anyway, I'll see you guys later, and take care.